It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. It's Friday. The weekend's in front of us. But today I want to talk about the roll-ups inside the document imaging channel. Ladies and gentlemen, these roll-ups, whether they're private equity or self-funded, they have one thing in common, and that commonality is they're all for sale. There's a for sale sign up in front of all the roll-ups. That's what they do. They make investments, they roll up organizations, and they're either going to sell them to an end game or they're going to issue an IPO. I got to be honest with you. I don't see a roll-up in the copier business that's 90-95% copier business and service and supplies getting investors excited in an IPO. So there has to be some shakeup inside these roll-ups. So today I thought, let's talk about what that shakeup could be. So let's pull up the players, folks. We got FlexPrint, Visual Edge, Ubio, Dex Imaging, and Marco. Now we know that Dex Imaging, that was a roll-up. They had an end game. They sold to Staples. Of course, Staples, who owns Dex Imaging, well, it's private equity owned by our friends at Sycamore Partners, so Staples and Dex is definitely for sale. I want to talk about Marco and Dex Imaging for a second here. These are the two roll-ups that when they bought your organization, the next day you became Dex Imaging or Marco. And I really believe that's the solid strategy. When I look at our friends over here this side, FlexPrint, Visual Edge, and Ubio, they're not really taking advantage of that, of a brand. I mean, it's kind of like if I called up McDonald's and said, hey, I want to be a franchisee owner. I appreciate the opportunity, Ronald, but I got to tell you something. I can't call it McDonald's because people won't come. They've been coming to Ray's Burgers forever, so if we can call it Ray's Burgers, I'm in. Well, McDonald's would hang up the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to reevaluate that. One of Carl Icahn's arguments when he was running Jeff Jacobs out the door was that he didn't like the fact that Global Imaging had all these different names and they weren't even marketing Xerox, which is one of the most recognized brands in the damn world in our industry. He thought it was kind of silly. I think Carl's right. We're in a declining market. Brands are important. So kudos to Dex and Marco, because I think you're on the right track there. But folks, who could buy these roll-ups? Someone asked me the other day, you think a manufacturer will come in and buy one of these big roll-ups? Well, they could. I assure you this, though, it won't be Ricoh. You see, Ricoh, they already did that. Remember, they went out and bought Icon, they bought Lanier, they bought all kinds of business. And then what did they do? They sold it all back to the dealers, and they wrote off $2 billion in goodwill. So I don't think Ricoh's going to get back into buying distribution. So who else would be a manufacturer that would do it? Well, I got to be honest with you. Why would any manufacturer do it unless they had a direct footprint, number one? There's no benefit. I don't see a benefit. If Kyocera, for instance, went out there and bought a FlexPrint, a Visual Edge, or even an Ubio, what would they do with it? They're going to have an existing footprint full of all kinds of competitive equipment. Yeah, some of them probably sell Kyocera, but they're going to have to switch all those brands to all Kyocera. They're not going to be able to really take advantage of consolidating redundant footprints or branches or offices. They couldn't really cut any cost. I don't see any manufacturer without a direct operation making any sense buying up a roll-up full of multiple brands. The manufacturer I see that could do it right here, folks, it's Xerox. And I know a lot of you say, God, Ray, you're so bullish on Xerox. But think about it. They've already proved they could do it. When Xerox cleaned up Global Imaging, cleaned up all that distribution, it was a painful thing to do. It was extremely painful. They were criticized by some of the analysts. But Xerox didn't care about that. They didn't care about the emotional impacts of this. They cared about business realities and where the market was going. And they did all of that before the virus, which leads me to believe if they came into the marketplace and gobbled up one or two of these roll-ups, they'd be able to do what needs to take place, which is consolidation. When manufacturers come in and buy roll-ups, it's all about consolidation. So if you have your own footprint, think about it. Think about Xerox buying Konica, calling my friend Wes McCarter from NextEra and saying, let's look at the data. Let's put all this equipment on the map, because Wes's data does that. I had him on the show, we talked about it. Let's put all this data on the map. Let's see where all the overlapping is. Let's see how many techs we really need. Let's see how many parts are in these inventories that are obsolete. The consolidation of buying an entity with distribution that overlaps with you, the add backs would be great. The ability to cut costs would be fantastic. And going forward in the document imaging channel, it's not about we're going to grow, we're going to add $200 million to our business because we just bought a bunch of dealers out there. That's not going to work. Everything you just bought will decline every day going forward. There has to be a strategy in these acquisitions. Think about this. What if Xerox went out there and said to Staples or Sycamore, I want to buy Staples Index from you. We're going to buy the whole thing. Staples Index, sell it to us. That's pretty disruptive. Pretty damn disruptive. They could take that Dex footprint, you know, where Xerox is, where they overlap with Dex, they could make some cuts, necessary cuts. They'd have that storefront. They'd have an automatic overnight, fully functional, robust e-commerce platform called Staples.com. They'd have storefronts they could turn into demo rooms. That would be so disruptive it would get the attention of the marketplace. You know, when I predicted that either Staples or Office Depot would buy Dex, would buy a major player, I didn't say Dex, I said a mega dealer. I did that because I had a vision of something different. And I got to be honest with you, since that Staples and Dex acquisition, they're not hitting my vision. It seems like they're still running in silos with each other instead of coming together. I thought for sure when that pandemic started that Dex imaging customers would be able to go to Staples.com and buy stuff right then. Right then. I thought they'd be able to just be one company. We're going to help you out of your home. I think it was a missed opportunity. But ladies and gentlemen, when I look at Marco, you know, they could actually be an acquirer. They could be an acquirer. What if they went over to FlexPrint and Visual Edge and they said, hey, we want to buy both of you? Because it has to be bold, like I said. The thing that Marco does different than all these players is Marco has a really good IT services business. Marco has the help desk. Marco has the knock center. Marco has voice over IP. Marco understands IT. They've been doing it for a decade. I know some of you folks are going to say we sell IT too, but putting a server in someone's closet as a one-off is not an IT services business. Marco has the ability to take a couple roll-ups. The very next day, they're all going to be called Marco. So they immediately have a nationwide footprint that they can then inject those other services that they've injected into companies they've been buying for over a decade. They know how to do it. Think of the costs they would be able to cut, because they would use software, they would use intelligence, and they would start figuring out where the overlaps were. And they start shrinking that distribution so it becomes more profitable. You know what, folks? Kyocera, maybe they want to buy Visual Edge or FlexPrint. You know, maybe HP decides they want to start buying up some roll-ups. Good luck with them. They still think A3 is the way to go. I don't see a manufacturer without a direct footprint benefiting at all by buying a roll-up. And I know Konica has a direct footprint, but I got to be honest with you. I don't know if they're bold enough to do what would have to take place to do it. One thing I know for sure, Xerox is. That's why I say they could be the manufacturer that could make buying some of these roll-ups work. But if Marco decided to go out there and buy a couple of these roll-ups, injected their IT services business in it, guess what? It's not just about print. It's not just about pages. That would probably attract outsiders to look at that distribution. Wow, look at that technology company selling all these things to these thousands of customers. We want to be part of that because they know how to diversify. They know how to deliver those customers something other than print and copy. And this has been the biggest pet peeve of mine with the roll-ups. We focused on print. We focused on supplies. We focused on managed print. We ignored transactional business. We didn't really diversify into IT. We said we want to. We think we are, but if it was all separated out, would it be profitable? Those are questions to ask. But ladies and gentlemen, there will be some disruption, as they say. There will be some consolidation with the roll-ups. It's just a matter of who's going to be bold enough. Who's going to kick down the barriers. You know, I do remember when I predicted that either Office Depot or Staples would buy a mega dealer, people thought I was crazy. But I envisioned something different. I envisioned a footprint, brick and mortar, e-commerce. And today I vision a whole lot of different things for our industry by the time we get into that year 2022. Because ladies and gentlemen, we know that possibilities become probabilities. Those probabilities become realities quicker than ever. So think about the things we just talked about here today. But one thing we all know for sure, status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all on Monday.